Gon' kick it off then. Whoa. Gon' kick it off then. It ain't a game, kick it off then. Whoa. So gon' kick it off then. What we talking about, it goes deep. Something to watch, even from the nosebleeds. The fans been waiting, anticipating for the whole week. Cause we making moves and breaking news, no time for cold feet. Don't confuse, you know the rules and that we play to win. You ain't prepared to take it, then I let the games begin. A man's world, but the ladies gon' be taking it. Not a trophy or an arm piece, unless we talking Lombardi. What's up?
And then there was one remaining undefeated team in the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers. One remaining winless team in the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals. What a difference a week made for Adam Vinatieri. The Jags are now 0-4 against teams with winning records, and Deshaun Jackson is out for at least 6 weeks. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned into another episode of WTF Too, Women Talk Football Too. I'm Latasha Miles, a.k.a. Joan Madden, the gridiron goddess of SheSP and the network, and I'm accompanied by my dope, talented, knowledgeable, beautiful co-host. Let them know who you are.
What's up, good people? It's the one and only Touchdown Tomboy. Man, did I see an amazing game last night. The Ravens took out the Patriots, and might I say, it was an amazing game to watch. Oh my God, girl, let's get started before I just spill out a bean.
We will definitely talk more in depth about that game because it was a big one, and that's for sure. But now that we are officially halfway through the season, completing week 9, and with all the bye weeks in place, all the teams have now played at least 8 games. So we're officially at the halfway spot. You know, week 9 just completed. Between that week 8 and week 9, since there's 17 weeks in the season, that's where we are, halfway through the season, and it's going by really, really fast. 1st of November, another indication that we're about halfway through the season. So, yeah, we kicked it off last week with some mid-season accolades in our discussion when we talked about the Coach of the Year so far. So let's move on this week in the first quarter with the mid-season MVP of the league. And before we get your thoughts on this Touchdown Tomboy, we had a lot of fans, a lot of input from fellow football fans talking about who they thought was the mid-season MVP, and the answers range from Christian McCaffrey. Of course, we are here in North Carolina, so we got a lot of Panthers fans saying McCaffrey by a landslide, easily McCaffrey, and understandably so. It's not a long shot because he is definitely a top candidate. Also, some interesting responses about Russell Wilson, including a response from the difference maker, aka Christopher Wallace, who actually was talking about Russell Wilson and saying that the reason why he was going with him for MVP is because he's doing way more with way less. Another interesting response was from, this is actually a news reporter, so maybe that's why his response is so profound as well. He mentioned Lamar Jackson because of the strength of schedule and what he has accomplished. He also chimed in with Wilson. He is literally the heartbeat of the Seahawks, kind of similar to what Difference Maker had said, and that he has 22 touchdowns and 1 interception. He chimes in lastly with Aaron Rodgers, who has been able to do all these amazing things with a new coach, might we add. And then there was also Amos Quick here with an outlier. He, of course, is a Saints fan, but he mentioned Michael Thomas coming off like with this record breaking with these stats in this season, and also mentioned, with Teddy Bridgewater. He did some of that with Teddy Bridgewater in the absence of Drew Brees, who's now back under center. But interestingly enough, wide open answers. We appreciate you guys for your input and for pitching in. Love to see the responses there. So, yeah, again, Lamar Jackson mentioned, Russell Wilson mentioned, Christian McCaffrey mentioned, and even Mike Thomas mentioned. So, Touchdown Tomboy, a wide realm of answers we could go with, quite a few to choose from. So, Touchdown Tomboy, who you got so far for your mid-season MVP?
Man, you know what? Like, y'all have named everybody that's on my list, and then y'all left one person out. Yeah, it's a bad man down there in Houston that's doing the thing. That darn Deshaun Watson is handling business. 1 week, I think he almost lost the eye, got kicked in the eye, still threw a touchdown. Like, when I think of MVP, I think of that one person that if you took them off that team would just not run without. And these people, Russell Wilson, Christian McCaffrey, Deshaun Watson, and I would even go so far after last night and say Lamar Jackson. Like, I'm looking at each one of them. Russell Wilson is a bad man. I mean, the throws that Russell Wilson can make, like only Russell Wilson can make them. He makes throws that only his receivers can get. Like, it's crazy. And then I'm looking at CMC. Christian McCaffrey is the heartbeat of the Carolina Panthers right now. And the Carolina Panthers are going through a very difficult time because they're having issues in terms of their quarterback with Cam Newton, and they don't know where his health is. But you know who's been a stable GOAT? That darn Christian McCaffrey. He's running. I mean, and he's running week in, week out, and he's performing. He's producing. Okay, so I can see the numbers with Christian McCaffrey. Then you got to turn around. You're thinking about Deshaun Watson, what he's out there doing in Houston. Now they have no J.J. Watt. Like, he's throwing these passes there on the dime. Okay, and then the way I saw Lamar Jackson last night shred the number one defense in the league with his legs, y'all. Okay, and everybody say he's reminding him of Mike Vick, but I'm gonna tell you, last night it reminded me of a young Cam Newton when Cam first came into the league, and he was shredding people with his legs. And just to see that, like with Lamar Jackson, and he's saying, we're going to do this my way, we're going to play my way, and he was just as accurate with his arm as he was with his legs, and he just made smart decisions last night. And I mean, he shredded that defense alive last night. They didn't know what to do with him. They couldn't even plan for him. And so just to see that was very impressive. So I can see any of these guys making MVP right now, because I mean they're lethal. All of them are doing their thing in their own perspective ways. So I think that it's going to be a very, very tight race for MVP this year.
So who would you give it to? Like, out of all those accolades and stats, who gets your slight edge in your opinion?
Ooh. Oh man, don't make me answer that question. It's going to be so hard. But if I had to give it to anybody, I don't know if I can answer this question. It'd be hard. I would say CMC. And the reason why I picked Christian McCaffrey, not because I like the Carolina Panthers, but you don't typically see a running back be the stable of the offense. You normally see the quarterback do that. And so it's typical for the quarterback to be the staple in the offense. But to see an offense that does not function if their running back is not on the field, that's rare. So that's why I'm going to give the edge to CMC.
Fair enough. I can't knock you on that one. I think it's a really good selection. And it's actually paining me to make my selection here because it's a divisional rival. But I'm very unbiased and I'm very much a realist. But I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. And part of it might be a partial of the fact that I actually saw Lamar Jackson, his Heisman winning college year. I saw that during that campaign. I saw him when he played the Carolina Tar Heels. I remember we were sitting in the suite, and I just remember all he can do is run, and he's not a pocket passer. He's not your typical quarterback. And that kind of ate at me because, I mean, even though at the time I didn't know he was going to Baltimore, but I just hate to hear people just kind of shun these unnatural, these not typical quarterbacks. I think it brings another dimension to their offense and what they can bring in their talent and skill if they're not just a pocket passer. And you mentioned how Lamar Jackson kind of reminds you of a young Cam Newton. Well, that's funny that you say that because Cam Newton's the only starting quarterback minus the injury. He's the only starting quarterback, active starting quarterback that's played for multiple years who has not lost the game to Tom Brady. And I'm talking about regular season. And it's because New England struggles against this type of quarterback. And we saw that again on Sunday night when Lamar Jackson was under center. So no surprises there that you saw that similarity because this type of quarterback New England cannot contain. And they can kind of go tit for tat and have a shootout against a Tom Brady type offense. But also the other thing about Lamar Jackson, why I'm going with him, 2,450 total yards, 1,800 of it is pass, 637 is rushing. Oh, by the way, that makes him 10th in the league. He's got 17 total touchdowns, 12 passing, 5 rushing, a 64.3% completion rating, 5 interceptions, 4 fumbles. By the way, none of those are lost fumbles. In addition to that, the strength of schedule, kind of piggybacking off of what Fago had said. I mean, come on, you're playing a team, the Super Bowl champions, who halfway through the season also was undefeated, and you shut them out for the most part, and you have a 17-point win. And then, also with those stats, And just the way that people just kind of talked about Lamar. I mean, some of the things that were said about him coming out of the draft, including he can't make the throws. The accuracy isn't there. When he throws, he hopes. He can't read coverages. Move him to wide receiver. He has a no shot at playing quarterback in the NFL. And I like the way that he has kind of taken these comments and ate them for lunch and displayed his talent out on the field and kind of shut up a lot of critics. And I appreciate when somebody's able to do that. And I really even appreciate more so the fans chanting MVP for him, because Joe Flacco could have never on Sunday night. So I'm going with Lamar Jackson. Again, it's a hard pill for me to swallow and digest because it is a division rival. But I just got to keep it real, just based off of stats and him being able to do the unthinkable and do a lot of things that people said that he could not do. So sticking with our special episode here, as we're talking about mid-season MVPs, all the great things that have happened thus far, we want to move on to the second quarter and look at our mid-season offensive rookie of the year. Now, to me, Touchdown Tomboy, honestly, there's only two answers here, but I kind of want to get your thoughts. Who are you favoring for the mid-season offensive rookie of the year?
Well, I'm going to go all the way out to Oakland, and I'm going to look at Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is out there handling business, okay? And when I think of offensive rookie of the year, I think of somebody who is out there, they handling business. And I mean, even though like his stats are not always there, I can see the running game that Josh Jacobs has out there for the Raiders, you know? And then I also got to look at Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is out there. Arizona was winless last year. And all of a sudden, they got life. And no, they're not going to go to the playoffs or nothing like that. But to see the transformation, they have hope now. And I'm looking at these two as offensive rookies of the year. Which way it'll go, I'm not sure. But those are the two that I picked. So it'll be interesting to see what you have to say about this.
When I had just mentioned that there were two, those were the two that I was thinking of. Like, I don't see anybody else that could touch them with the 10-foot pole. And I know that usually when the number one pick overall in the NFL draft as a quarterback, they automatically become the sexy pick. They're the ones who are under the microscope. They're the ones that the spotlight is on. And Kyler Murray, for the most part, has been that, like you said, with the way Arizona was last year. I mean, there's been vast improvement. They're also doing this with the new head coach. But again, that's like the obvious choice. That's the sexy pick there. And they're also playing in a very tough division. And I like the things that Kyler Murray has done and in making Arizona play some inspired football for the most part. And I get it. But, yeah, I'm going to go with the not as popular choice by going with Josh Jacobs as well. I mean, the Oakland Raiders are off to a surprising 4-4 start, which, you know, at the beginning of the year, with all the Antonio Brown stuff, no more Marshawn Lynch. You know, this is Gruden is a former shell of himself when he coached for Tampa Bay. Just kind of all of that rigmarole, and to just kind of see them sitting here at 500, which we really did not expect for the most part. So, definitely Josh Jacobs is a huge part of that. I mean, this guy, he also had another 100-yard game in Sunday's win over the Detroit Lions. He's averaging almost 5 yards a carry at 4.9, and I would take that any day, twice on Sundays, which that's the day that they usually play football. So I'll take that. I mean, halfway through the season, he's at 740 yards. So he's on pace to get a possible 1,500 yards. So, and I like that. There's some physical personality reestablished on this John Gruden's offense. And, yeah, Josh Jacobs is a big part of it. And so I don't think that Oakland would be in the predicament or position that they're in without him. So he gets my vote for the offensive rookie of the year as we have faced the midway point of the season. So, yeah, Touchdown Tomboy, moving on to your halftime presentation. What we got on deck here?
All right, so this week I wanted to do something a little different. So we started out talking about the game of football, and we started out talking about offensive line, defensive line, first downs, you know, different types of penalties. Well, this week I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to give you the structure, some information about the structure of the game. So, you know, I just feel like you can't really know the game unless you know the basic structure surrounding the game. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about is how it was set up. So just to let you know that when you're playing a game of football, they have 11 players on each side of the ball at a time. So you have 11 players on offense, 11 players on defense at a time. Each team has 3 timeouts per half. Every team has 3 timeouts per half. And the game is 60 minutes. So it's broken down into 4 15-minute quarters. Okay? And then, of course, you have a halftime show like we're doing right now. And then let's talk about the stats of the game. Okay, so you have what they call like the touchdowns. A touchdown is 6 points. Okay, every touchdown is 6 points. It's not 7 points. It's 6 points. The 7th point usually comes from the extra point. So an extra point can either be 1 point or 2 points. So if you kick a field goal, then if you kick the extra point through the upright, which they say is the field goal, that's 1 point after the touchdown. If you decide to go for a 2-point conversion, that means you're going to run it in and you can get 2 points. Okay? Now, if you kick a field goal, so a field goal is like if you don't get a touchdown and you're in the range to score, you could possibly get a field goal. If your kicker comes out and he kicks a field goal and he gets it through the upright, then that's 3 points, okay? And then, of course, your one other way to score is getting a safety, which we've talked about in previous weeks, which is 2 points. And so I kind of felt like you needed to know the outline of the game so you knew exactly what you were looking at. 11 players on offense, 11 players on defense. Okay, 3 timeouts per half. Each coach gets 3 timeouts per half. They play for 60 minutes, 4 15-minute quarters. You get touchdowns, 6 points, field goals, 3 points, extra points of 1 point or 2 points, and a safety is 2 points. All right, that's what I got today. Back to you.
I love the switch up there, you know, when you're starting to break down the numbers and the points that get accumulated. The penalties and stuff was great, but I loved it, like, how you just switched it up very unexpectedly and very unpredictable there. Once again, the knowledge is great. You never know what you're going to get from the touchdown time board, but one thing you will get is some execution and some knowledge as we bring you the show on a weekly basis. Now, going on to the third quarter here, coasting right along here. Still, this is a special episode. We're breaking down mid-season accolades, mid-season recognition. So let's talk about the defense. You know, the defensive player of the year and perhaps the defensive rookie of the year, which honestly at this point I think it might be a landslide. But touchdown time boy, what are your thoughts on the defensive rookie of the year and the defensive player of the year?
Okay, so even though it was kind of hard to separate them, I did separate them. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to go for the defensive player of the year. And I put them in 2 different categories because it's very possible that I guess that one person could win both. Mm-hmm. But right now, for my defensive player of the year, I got 3 people on deck. I got Myles Garrett. Okay, Myles Garrett, who plays for the Browns right now, is out there being the cleanup man. He's doing a lot of tackling out there. He's doing a lot of pressuring the quarterback. He's causing a lot of issues out there. I'm going down to Tampa Bay to Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett they're playing very similar right now. And then, of course, I cannot not forget about Nick Bosa. So those are my 3 people that I'm looking at for defensive player of the year. Mm-hmm. And for defensive rookie of the year, I'm looking at Nick Bosa, Brian Burns, and Devin Bush. So it's going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be hard because, like I said, Shaq Barrett, Myles Garrett, they're playing lights out right now. I mean, even though the Browns' record is not, indicative, and they've kind of struggled a little bit, to see the way Myles Garrett is getting behind that ball, and Shaq Barrett, we've seen what he's done week in and week out for Tampa. And Nick Bosa, we saw what he did against Carolina, and he even had an interception that game. And so right now, that is kind of putting Nick Bosa at the top of my list. I mean, he was in the face of Kyle Allen all night. And then he turned around and had an interception that game.
Right.
And then Brian Burns has been coming off the edge and been lights out. I mean, his wrist is all messed up right now. He had surgery on his wrist a couple weeks ago. You wouldn't have known it because he's still out there playing like a G. Okay, and then Devin Bush, of course, is a linebacker, and I mean he's all over the field. He's doing it everywhere for Pittsburgh right now. Pittsburgh is playing a lot better, and I would like to think that it's partly because Devin Bush is on the defensive side of the ball handling business. So those are my picks for defense this year. What do you got to say?
I concur with you on all of the names that you mentioned. Going back to the defensive player of the year. Adding on to that, I had Garrett as well. I had Barrett as well. Perhaps even Chandler Jones. Aaron Donald, you can't rule out. But unfortunately, like you mentioned as well, a lot of these guys play for losing teams and won't get their true recognition. Hey, low key, you could also look at Gilmore for the previously undefeated Patriots. Um, but I kind of want that double clutch on this. Because Nick Bosa definitely deserves to be in that conversation for Defensive Player of the Year as well. I don't know if they'll allow it, but I would like to see Nick Bosa be the Defensive Rookie of the Year and also the Defensive Player of the Year. At the beginning of the season, I did have Devin Bush on my radar. I also had Brian Burns, and still, I wouldn't rule them out either, but just the way Nick Bosa has kind of separated himself a little bit, especially in these past few weeks, just against quarterbacks alone, in 7 games, Bosa has 7 sacks. So we're talking at least 1 sack a game on average, 20 tackles, 11 tackles for a loss, the interception that you alluded to, a fumble recovery, 21 pressures. Oh, and by the way, a forced fumble. So I would love to really, really see this year kind of be like that standout year where we have the Defensive Rookie of the Year, also be the doppelganger, if you will, and be the Defensive Player of the Year. And I have just decided to make up my mind that if I get married, I want my husband to have the last name Bosa, so I could just kind of have like a little mi esposa is Bosa and play with a little bit in Spanish, have like a little tagline with it or whatnot. But everybody in the Bosa family just plays. I mean, it's just embedded by nature that they do well in playing football. I thought it was the Watt family too, but my goodness, the Bosa, they just keep on plucking off of this endless tree of family members who just know how to successfully play football. So I love Bosa. Again, I would love to see it come down to him winning both, getting both of those titles, both of those crowns. I know we got a long way to go, but it is a reach as well. But it is something that I'm looking at my radar, having on my radar and having wishful thinking about. So there's our mid-season thoughts on Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and also the MVP. You guys be sure you let us know if you agree, disagree, what did we miss. Like Touchdown Tomboy brought up Deshaun Watson, which wasn't discussed from the panel who participated on our post, but we love to hear from you guys. Who did we miss? Maybe the Michael Thomas that Amos Quick mentioned. Anybody else that you guys can think of, defensive, offensive, rookies. So let us know. We greatly appreciate the participation and the crowd thoughts and hearing from the fans who share this love of football and knowledge just like we do. So concluding here, moving on to the fourth quarter, we always kind of dedicate that to the Week 10 preview of what's to come. Got quite a few games, as usual, on deck. 6 teams on bye. That includes Denver, New England, Philly, Washington, Jacksonville, and Houston. So you won't see games from any of those teams. Of course, New England went into their bye week with a loss, so it's going to be interesting to see how pissed off they play, how inspired they play coming out of that bye week as they face Philly, another team who's on a bye this week. So that's interesting to say the least. But yeah, Week 10, the teams who are not on a bye week. Touchdown Tomboys, or anybody on any favorite games you're looking at, most intriguing games that you're looking at for Week 10?
Yes, ma'am. Monday night, shall there be another fall of the people and another team that drops from the undefeated category, because the 49ers will play the Seahawks on Monday night, and I'm hoping that they drop an L so we'll be on equal playing field again. So the Vikings and the Seahawks, of course, is going to be, I can't wait for that one. The Cowboys and the Vikings, they are playing on Sunday night. They're the Sunday night primetime game. The Lions and the Bears will be a good game. Of course, the Lions have not done as well as I thought they, I just feel like the refs don't like the Lions, because I feel like when the Lions play good, it doesn't matter. The refs find a way to get them. And so that's going to be a good game, I think, this week. Of course, we have a divisional game between the Falcons and the Saints. And I think those are the games that I'm most – the Chargers and the Raiders, that ought to be a really good game, too. The Chargers bounced back this week with a big win. And those are the games that I'm most interested in looking at. What about you? What do you like? I know your Steelers are playing the Rams this week, so.
Yeah. which is a tough one, a 3-game winning streak, but that's definitely a scary game having to face the NFC champions who haven't really been living up to the expectations of this year, but I still never count them out. So I'm a little concerned. I cannot lie, I'm very concerned. And plus, they have a little bit of an advantage because that game is at 4:25, which, you know, if the game would have been at 1 o'clock, their mindset and their body would have been feeling like it was 10. So the fact that they get that game at like 1:25 that time, that actually serves as a bonus for the LA Rams as well. So congratulations to y'all, but I still hope y'all carry this L going back across country when y'all fly back there on either on Sunday night or Monday. But I'm not ruling out anything. I think it'll be a close game, but I hope at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I do hope that we'll get the win, obviously. I'm always a fan of the divisional games. So kicking it off Thursday night, the Chargers at Oakland. Oakland, of course, at 500. The Chargers coming off a huge, surprising win against the Green Bay Packers. But interestingly enough, the LA Chargers could be moving once again. They may be a permanent team in London. So I'm sure that's not sitting well with the 23 Chargers fans across the country. But yeah, so let's see maybe if them finding the news of them maybe possibly moving to London, if that plays a part in how they play Thursday night and beyond. Detroit at Chicago, another divisional game on Sunday. Baltimore at Cincy. You know, Cincy, this is a good chance for them to possibly get a win with Baltimore playing so well on Sunday night. They had a shorter week. Cincinnati's at home. They're the last winless team. Maybe that might help them be inspired. Who knows? Maybe Baltimore left everything that they had on the field against New England. This is a really good time, Cincinnati, to catch Baltimore in a vulnerable state. Not guaranteeing anything. Baltimore may blow the doors off of them, but I'm just saying, like, all of those factors could play a part in kind of helping you guys out. Atlanta and New Orleans, another divisional game. And the Battle of New York. Nobody has home field here. The Giants at the Jets. Somebody's got to win this game, of course, unless it's a tie. But yeah, this is great. Like, all the fans, it's a home game for all the fans. The Battle of the Big Apple, which both teams have been playing like sour apples here lately. But somebody, again, has got to get this win here. I'm interested in you guys as well. Carolina playing at Green Bay. That game was flexed. It was a 1 o'clock game. It's now at 4:25. You know, Aaron Rodgers, seeing what he does coming off of that 11, only putting out 11 points against the Chargers. Carolina getting back in the swing of things with winning, you know. So they've traveled well. Also, they've won games on the road. Also in London. So it's not like they're terrible on the road. They've won games. They won games in Houston. So I think they won in Arizona also. So Carolina's a tough team on the road. So it's going to be great to see how they play an Aaron Rodgers team who's been mentioned as a dark horse for MVP and coming off that huge loss. And like you said, Minnesota at Dallas. We talked about the Rams at Pittsburgh. And yes, Seattle at San Fran. Like you said, this is very possible that San Fran could, the 72 Miami Dolphins could get their way come Monday night. I don't like the fact that Seattle's at San Fran. If it was at Seattle, I would definitely pick Seattle just based off of all the hype of, I know Seattle's lost home games, but with the hype of them like, oh, this is the last undefeated team, let's go ahead and knock them off that pedestal, I'd be a little bit more partial to picking Seattle, you know, more favorably. I think it's a 50-50 shot here, but again, San Fran also got 11 days to prepare for this game. They haven't played since last Thursday, and they're playing Monday. That could kill the momentum, but it could also give them extra time to prepare for Seattle, who had that thrilling overtime win on Sunday. So, yeah, we'll see. Definitely some dope games to be on the lookout for. I have no upset picks other than, yeah, I don't know. Maybe if Cincinnati can kind of play with what Baltimore just did Sunday night and use it in their favor. I have no upset picks, no surprises. We'll definitely see how week 10 goes. But a little bit of overtime here, though, touchdown time, boys. We kind of wrapped up those first 4 quarters. You know, the thoughts on the Monday night game, the Cowboys triumphant once again against the Giants, who started off 2-2, and now they've lost 5 straight. The Cowboys definitely dominant in that game. They've kind of been running numbers on this Giants team, playing them twice a year over the past few years. You had the Patriots losing. We're mentioning that, losing their first game of the season halfway through this year on Sunday night against a dominating Ravens team. And the Dolphins getting their first win, which to me I had a lot to do with, because every time I go to a stadium, like, I drop off my black girl magic, and I feel like really that's I was at that game in Miami. You're welcome. And I might need to just turn this into a little business because every time I go see LeBron, he wins when I'm there. When I've gone to Panthers game, the Tar Heels games that I've went to, the only home games they've won, I've been to. So I don't know. I'm thinking about starting a little business with this touchdown tomboy. But yeah, here we are in overtime. What are your thoughts? Anything that you want to talk about as we recap week 9?
Man, I'm telling you, like, first of all, the game last night, I think, was the game of the week, yo. Like, I know I alluded to it earlier in the show, but just the way that they played last night, I don't think I've ever seen Tom Brady as rad. Like, they made Tom Brady look like he was 42 yesterday. And I was really surprised because for the first time, I felt like, oh my God, like, the Patriots are really, like, they are really can be beaten. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and just to see how Julian Edelman, he played good, but it wasn't good enough. And just to see how that defense stepped up at big moments, okay? And then Lamar Jackson back there, I mean, he just shredded that whole defense with his own legs. Like, it was one time where they were going for it. I think it was like 4th and goal or 3rd and goal, and the offensive lineman pulled him into the end zone. Like, I'm like, whoa, this is bananas. But it was an excellent game to watch. Like, that was, to me, was the game of the week. It was just good just to be able to see Lamar just work his magic. It was like they came out there with an intent to say, we're going to beat the Patriots tonight. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. And, I mean, that game was just spectacular to me. That game was spectacular to me. I thought that Tampa played very good against the Seahawks yesterday. Although they lost, I was very surprised that Jameis Winston really did not turn the ball over. Right. So it's amazing to me that if he's playing a good game, they actually can be contenders. But the question is how consistent can they keep him without turning the ball over? Because that was a very good game too. Mm-hmm. And so those were 2 really, really good games yesterday.
Absolutely. And Seattle's not as dangerous at home as they used to be a few years ago. No more Legion of Boom, obviously, but still, like, they've lost some home games as well to where one time you could not win up there in that 12th man stadium. So in Seattle's case, maybe they might want to get in the playoffs but have to play some games on the road. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're protecting that stadium as thoroughly as they used to be. So this is going to be interesting. Even though I hate to see football season go by so fast, I love it when it starts getting into that midway point. You start to see how teams are filling out. You start to see implications of postseason coming into play. The trade deadline is over, so it's kind of, we get to see now who did what, who was missing what, who should have made different moves and got key components and things like that. So, hey, here we go. We're starting to get into the meat and potatoes. Now that daylight savings time is here. Now that it's November, the holidays are coming up. So, we've got the 3 Thanksgiving games coming up this month on Thursday. So, it's going to be awesome to see how things go down the stretch. So, I'm excited. I know you're excited as well. So, yes, indeed. So, we'll definitely see how things go. And we greatly appreciate...
Don't forget that the Panthers grabbed Dante Moncrief off the waiver today.
That's very true. And I know that the Dolphins are regretting that because now that their key receiver is out for the rest of the season, I know they hate that they were possibly like a day late and $1 short on that. I think it's Williams. He got hurt, Preston Williams. We were at that game, and he was having a phenomenal game. But yeah, now he's out for the season, as well as Miami finally got their first win of the season. So it's like the high and the low, the roller coaster ride of that. So, yeah, I think it's great. I think this now makes 7 wide receivers for the Panthers going forward. So, there's some trust getting established there in Allen for them to add another weapon. I didn't think Moncrief was too bad when he played with us. Of course, he had some history with the Colts. I just think it was a mutual, the departure was good mutually for both teams. And I wish him well and hope he has a very refreshing start and burst when he comes to you guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes.
I think it's going to be interesting. That whole situation in Carolina, I think is going to be interesting.
Absolutely. And speaking of the other stuff that you were saying about Deshaun Watson's eye, he actually said the Popeyes chicken sandwich helped cure him. Not sure if doctors are writing prescriptions for that. I know at the pharmacy that I work at, we ain't getting no prescriptions like that. But check out Deshaun Watson's take on how the Popeyes chicken sandwich helped cure his eye as well. And as Touchdown Tomboy alluded to, it even helped him throw some more touchdowns. So, yeah. If you're having eye problems, I feel bad for you, son, but go get you a Popeyes chicken sandwich in Jay-Z voice. Yeah, go get you a Popeyes chicken sandwich. And like Deshaun Watson said, maybe that can help you out.
Right.
Well, we appreciate you guys for tuning in to another episode of WTF Too. We appreciate the input on the post. We'll be showing you guys love and shouting you guys out. Be sure you follow us on social media platforms. We got lots of big things coming up. We thank you all so much once again for tuning in. By this time, you should all have your clocks set back an hour. Should be getting pretty used to that daylight savings time there. But if not, we got 4 months that we're dealing with this, so take that heed as it's getting darker earlier, and probably our light bills are going to go up. But hey, at least we got some football to help us serve as a therapeutic type of process as we go down to the second half of the NFL season. And we once again thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of WTF2 with the Gridiron Goddess and the Touchdown Tomboy. We will catch you guys next week. We appreciate you, and we're out.